this is for the speaker. Yeah? Для
Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and a very warm welcome to the EBRD 2024 Annual Meeting and Business Forum. I'm Melinda Crane, and it will be my great honor to accompany you as moderator as we explore investing in human capital for resilient crisis recovery. And that question we see on the screen is the crucial topic that we want to talk about on today's panel. We often hear the term resilience in this era of polycrisis. We saw some of the crises there on the film just now. And often resilience is measured in terms of kilometers of road or rail built, in terms of kilowatts of energy restored, or in terms of square meters of additional housing, clinic, and office space. But the fact is, while all of those are important, resilience starts with people. And that's why crisis-proofing our economies and our societies requires targeted human capital policies and measures to strengthen the skills and capacities of workers, both present and future. Our session brings together high-level speakers from the private sector, government, and financial institutions to share their perspectives on both the challenges and the solutions, and tell us how they are cooperating to deliver impact together, which, of course, is the overarching title of this year's EBRD annual meeting. We begin with a short input from a strategic management consultant with extensive experience in change management across a whole array of sectors. He has seen the human effects of conflict and crisis close up in his own life as well as in those of the staff at client firms. Vladimir Stetsik, a director at Kearney, Ukraine, joins us virtually from Kiev. Welcome, Vladimir. It's wonderful that you can be with us. You have been advising Ukrainian companies who are reintegrating war veterans into the workforce. You yourself were conscripted, and like many other men of combat age, you are not able to leave the country to be with us here personally today. Give us a sense, if you would, please, of the reality that veterans are facing as they return to their workplaces and their families, and of why it's so important to succeed in reintegrating them into the labor market.
Thank you so much. Dear participants, honored guests, it's a big privilege for me to be invited here today. I wish I could do it in person. First, I would like to thank the EBRD team for their continuous work on human capital topic. It is hardly possible to overestimate its importance for Ukraine these days. I used to work many years in managerial consulting before 22, and in March 22, I joined Ukrainian Defense Forces to establish civil-military collaboration. After the our victory, I'm dreaming about joining Ukraine recovery efforts, and human capital is both an essential pillar and potential bottleneck for Ukraine's recovery. And that is why I have been actively engaged into the veterans reintegration topic. Before, now, and after. That's how the life is structured in Ukraine these days. On individual level, veterans were very different before the full-scale invasion. One was serving in army before, another was an active sportsman, a third one was an ordinary worker who never fought in his life. On the battle lines, the situation is very different. The horizon of planning is narrow, just to survive today and tomorrow. And sometimes in a common situation, we may have discussions about the uncertainty of service duration and some fears being not accepted by the society after the end of the war. Apparently, the veterans are concerned about their families, especially in cases of disabilities or casualties. Thinking about future, veterans have very different dreams. Some would like to stay on service, while others wish to start their political career or, probably join NGOs. But the vast majority of my military colleagues, they are dreaming about the labor market, to come back to it, to launch own business, to come back to the previous workplace, or to gain some new skills. On a macro level, though, before 22, Ukraine was facing negative demographic trends. And despite that situation, there were unfortunately very few positive cases of veterans reintegration in 2015, 2021. The situation now is very different. The gap in work age population is exceeding 30% versus 21. And employers learn the lessons. They are really working hard to integrate each veteran. Employers are working on reintegration of their employees since day one of mobilization. And that's a major change. Thinking of the future challenges, because right now, majority of veterans are still on service. We are not passing through the key wave of demobilization, but the key challenge is going to be physical and mental health issues, some family problems, and I assume we will also talk about huge decrease in post-service income, because right now salaries are much higher. There might be some additional challenges veterans will face during after the demobilization. So we need to think of complex rehabilitation and help to find a new sense of purpose in life after the return from the battle lines. Taking no action will cause huge social risks and expenses. In other words, we cannot dream of long-term recovery without reintegration of hundreds of thousands of veterans. And an effective return of veterans is possible through synergy between families, employers, central and local authorities, NGOs, and society. Collaboration. It is the only way to achieve the resilient crisis recovery under the given scale of challenges. And I hope there will be many fruitful projects with the EBRD team in this topic ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vladimir Sejcik, for being with us today and sharing those messages, and we certainly will be taking them with us now into our discussion with our panel. All the best for your work. And we will pick up on those messages, as I said, shortly in our discussion. First of all, let me just tell you, dear members of the audience, how you can also share your comments and questions. We do have an online tool, Slido, that you can use for that purpose. You can scan the barcode that you see now on the screen, or you can enter the code 6683-7795 on the slido.com website, and we will bring in your questions later on toward the end of the discussion. And we will also take questions via microphone here live in the room. And now, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to welcome our speakers, and I will keep the introductions short to maximize our discussion time. You see next to me the empty chair. We are hoping that the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economic Development and Digitalization for Moldova will join us shortly. Dumitru Alaiba had a slight delay, but he will be joining soon. And it's a pleasure to introduce Marie-Lou Papazian. She is Chief Executive Officer at the TUMO Center for Creative Technologies, which runs self-learning programs for young people at multiple locations across Northern and Southeastern Europe. And as founding CEO, she developed the center's educational program. It's wonderful that you can be with us, Marie-Lou. Seated next to her is Lyudmila Yerobkina. She is HR Director at the Ukrainian publicly owned energy group Ukrenergo. She's been working to provide opportunities for veterans and has made Ukrenergo one of Ukraine's top employers working in that area to help support veterans. Hannah Sahar is Chief Risk Officer at the Credit Officer at the Bank of Palestine. It is one of the largest national banks in the region, serves over 850,000 individuals and firms with the aim of contributing to construction and development and advancing modern technologies. And representing our host on the panel is Barbara Rambusek. She is the EBRD's Director of Gender and Economic Inclusion. She stewards the bank's approach to integrating economic inclusion and human capital considerations into its mandate, and she's a strong voice for putting human capital at the heart of the EBRD's work. Wonderful that we can hold this discussion here under your auspices. I'd like to begin with some of the challenges surrounding integrating human capital. And if I may, I will begin with Lyudmila to follow up on what we just heard from Vladimir. There's been a sharp workforce reduction. He mentioned that. The numbers that I've seen are 40% workforce reduction in Ukraine since the beginning of the war. How has depletion of the country's human capital impacted your business operations at Ukrenergo itself?
Thank you for the question. So, since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, millions of Ukrainians were forced to leave their homes and jobs. But apart from sharp workforce depletion, we also face in Ukraine heightened unemployment rates reaching 26% in 2023, as reported by the National Bank of Ukraine, a scarcity of skilled professionals due to emigration, mobilization, and also mental health issues among the remaining workforce in Ukraine, with 77% complaining a high level of self-stress and anxiety, and 46 making efforts to cope with fatigue, as per latest research. And last but not least, our people continue to perish daily. At Ukrenergo, our situation is exceptionally complex due to the fact that we belong to the critical infrastructure of Ukraine. It means that our people face a dual burden, both as civilians in a wartime and critical infrastructure workers whose task is to maintain balance of electricity for the whole country and thus sustain the economy amid the frequent air raids alert, which lasts sometimes up to 13 hours per day. During this time, our people have to evacuate to shelters or to move away from the electrical grids if they are working in the fields. In such areas like Kharkiv, explosions from ballistic missiles often happen before air raid siren alerts. Surely it leads to interruptions of our operational activity. Our people work sometimes at nights without day offs, without holidays, beside the adverse weather, to repeatedly, again and again, repair the damaged infrastructure. For us, it's really painful to look at the cynically destroyed equipment, but our paramount concern is our people. Because working in energy sector during a wartime means significant safety risks. So tragically, 7 of my colleagues perished at their working places, among others who were deeply injured. 8 my colleagues died defending our country, and 254 employees continue serving in Ukrainian armed forces. Besides all these challenges, our enemy tripled their cyber attacks to our security system compared to pre-war period. But at Ukrenergo, despite all these challenges, we managed to become full-fledged member of INSOE. Literally, it means that we are part of European Union energy family as of December 2023. And all our people know that it depends on them whether there will be light in the houses of Ukrainians and whether Ukrainian economy will stand up in this fierce struggle.
So, enormous scale of the challenges that you're facing, and you will tell us a little bit later on what Ukrenergo is doing to address some of those. Thank you very much. Welcome, Deputy Prime Minister. Great to have you with us. And we did go ahead and start without you, but you have a few moments to breathe until I come to you with a question. So let me go now to Mary-Lou Papazian. And over 100,000 people fled Karabakh since Azerbaijan took control in September 2023. Armenia is having difficulties integrating them into the labor force and into society. Given TUMO's leading role in fostering skills development, where do you see key challenges that are facing both the displaced people, the refugees, and host communities?
So there are two main challenges, in my opinion. The first one, TUMO has a long-term goal, education, preparing the young generation. So in this case, we're talking about very short-term upskilling and doing it very quickly. So that is a big challenge. How can you create a program that is targeted to, in very short-term, upskill and give what is needed for these refugees that are in Armenia. And we have to understand also when there is a movement like that, very sudden movement, they're moving, they're not stable all the time. So there is a big challenge of following them and understanding what is happening and where it's happening and how can you offer support, and of course, how can you offer programs that resonate with them. The second challenge is that, and it's obvious, that their main concerns today are health, their daily needs, school system, integration into the school system, and all these daily problems. And at the same time, you're trying to find a solution for them that speaks about the future. But in reality, the answer to having a stable future is to invest today in a long-term, something long-term and something that will give them the opportunity to not do regular jobs, but to do high-skilled jobs so that they can secure their future in Armenia. So those are very big challenges, and which, once you understand them, you navigate and you prepare the program according to those challenges.
And how you do that is something we will come back to shortly. But let me go over here now to ask Hannah to talk a little bit about the situation that you are facing. How are the ongoing conflict and the political instability in your region affecting small businesses? You do work with a number of small businesses, also small businesses led by women, and your own staff as well. What challenges is Bank of Palestine itself facing?
Thank you. It's an honor to be on this panel, and thank you for this question. So basically, I want to talk about what the war has done to many of the businesses in Palestine. So some significant percentage of businesses in Gaza were completely destroyed, demolished, taking away and swiping away all the businesses' assets and equity, and people's whole life investments in the business, especially for small and medium businesses, where all the wealth and net worth of the people are in their businesses. The war has also resulted in a severe decline in economic activities in other areas of Palestine, where businesses have not been directly affected by the war. But it had a big impact on the overall economy. And small, medium businesses in other areas had a significant decline in revenue, much higher cost of operation, difficulty in movement of goods and services, issues with importing raw materials and importing goods from abroad. And of course, mobility has become extremely difficult. So all businesses across the board have been impacted to varying degrees, from loss of assets and damage to the assets, and in other areas, the severe decline in revenues and all the difficulties in keeping the operations going. Mind you that small and medium enterprises are a major contributor to employment. So they have to, those who have not been damaged by the war, and they're still going, you need to make sure that these businesses continue to operate under difficult circumstances. Otherwise, it will be bad for the country, it will be bad for the economy, it will be bad for everyone. So we at Bank of Palestine we felt that being part of at the heart of all this, we're part of the community. We are the major national Palestinian bank. The bank took a strategic decision to stand by its customers, because normally in a situation like this, you would want to de-risk. You would want to make sure that this is the high risk, and you would want to be conservative as much as possible. Well, taking this into consideration, you also have to make sure that the businesses continue to operate. We had, and you cannot start planning for something like this the last minute, okay? So prior to this, our different various departments, including the risk department and our business department and the credit, we worked on a business continuity plan. We've always had a business continuity plan focusing on the critical functions, because in a situation like this, in order to help and be useful, you have to be strong, solid, and to be able to help your clients and be able to serve the economy. So immediately when the war broke out, and of course, sometimes you plan for a situation and the actual situation is even worse than a plan, and nothing could prepare you for what is coming. But having a business continuity plan was essential, and it helped us a lot in keep on, through this adversity, and it helped a lot our clients that they were not cut off, and we continued the operation. We knew what to do and how to help, and our own people knew if someone was not present. Some of our staff were in Gaza. They were, many were unable to work, and so you had to work from one area versus another, and we had this all, somehow we've always had a business continuity plan which helped us continue the operation.
And I want to talk a little bit later about preparedness, which is an aspect of what you just told us. What I'm hearing from all three of you is you're confronting urgent situations. You need to act in the short term. These are situations that are very uncertain and very fluid, and at the same time, you have to keep longer term goals in sight. So clearly an enormous challenge. I will come now to you, Deputy Prime Minister, and Moldova faces demanding demographic trends that to some degree go in opposite directions. On the one hand, in the past, you have seen mass emigration out of Moldova. On the other, the war in Ukraine has prompted an influx of refugees and returnees coming back from conflict areas. And you are struggling with ongoing interference from Russia. So tell us a little bit about how all of that is affecting human capital development and presenting challenges in your country.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, sorry for being late. You know, we're all running from place to place in such meetings. It is true that there are structural problems, structural issues that are affecting Moldova's human capital and thus the economy, because we need to think about how we use it to create economic opportunity and to enable growth. That's what it's about. Now, it is, you know, as the transition went, it is true that Moldova was not spared from mass immigration because the Eastern Europe in general was and still is one of the most depopulated areas in the world, given its proximity to the European Union and the huge disparities in the living standards and income. So it's only natural that people would move. However, I also want to see it, and you know, as a result, we have around 1 million out of 1 million people in the diaspora abroad. It is, you know, it's a missed opportunity for our economy, because to imagine this 1 million working for Moldovan companies, for the Moldovan economy, it would look much different, just like it is the case for Ukraine, just like it is the case for Romania, for Georgia, and many other countries that suffer from the same problem. However, to turn it into an opportunity, it's also a way of leapfrogging, of taking a shortcut, because our people, they learn new skills, they build networks, the power of the diaspora to then reinvest and come back with new perspectives, with new contacts, after all, with new capacities. It's been proven in the past. In the case of other countries, Armenia is one of the leading examples, you could say, about how diaspora can bring back and contribute back. So this is what we are looking at as an opportunity. It is true that after the beginning of this war in Ukraine, that is, let's face it, taking a lot of our you know, peace of mind, after all, and it is true that Moldova has provided home to around 1 million people altogether. At the moment, around 4% of Moldova's population are our friends and neighbors from Ukraine, mainly women and children. And while it is, you know, while it is our duty to support and to help with anything we can, we're happy to. This is the least we can do. At the same time, again, it's about offering them opportunities. It's about offering them a way to value and to put their best skills to use, so that to make it let's say more peaceful, even more peaceful stay. It is. I mean, there are pluses and minuses, and we want to see it's about really turning the opportunity, the struggles, the structural problems into opportunities. So while, and you rightly pointed out, while we have urgent needs and urgent problems to address and to solve, we should also think long term. And if you teach me how to exactly trade off between these two, then it would be really a really good skill to have. Now, given that the economy needs resources, needs human resources, now we have to do unconventional. We have to resort to unconventional measures. For example, in order to offer the economy the human capital that it needs in order to develop, this year we have, I mean, it is a short-term measure, it is a short-term solution, but it is what could work right now to support the economy. So we have eliminated effectively work permits for citizens of 47 countries in Moldova. That means that as a citizen of the European Union or of Ukraine or of Turkey or of South Caucasus, Western Balkans and a few other countries, you can come to Moldova, you can sign an employment contract and work. And we did it exactly in order to open up for talent, to open the country for high-skilled individuals that could move entire industries based on the expertise of one person. I mean, the truth is that to operate, for example, one pharmaceutical factory, you need probably a couple of chemists, and the rest is less sophisticated work. So, yeah.
I want to come back and hear more about that in just a moment, but let me now ask Barbara to tie together the strands of some of what we've been hearing. What are the main challenges that EBRD itself sees in terms of its work in strengthening human capital and supporting both businesses and policy partners in times of crisis?
Thank you very much, Melinda, and thank you very much also to our speakers. I mean, for EBRD, we see many of those challenges that have just been articulated across our region. It's about securing and protecting livelihoods and jobs and people. And we've heard about that, particularly from Ukraine, also from our speaker earlier on, where people struggle to maintain the jobs that they have, where they struggle to maintain the livelihoods, the living standards that we have. We know in Ukraine, 75% of people in Ukraine have seen a substantial drop in their living standards due to the war. We also know that, for example, women have to be retrained to enter into the types of jobs that used to be held by men who are now at the front or have left the country. So this sort of also the workforce depletion of the labor market is a huge, huge challenge and creates massive challenges. SMEs, we heard about those, companies facing huge challenges to keep operating, to adapt to differences in terms of how they can access the market. Maybe they have to move their operations. Maybe they access their markets and their supply chains in a completely different way. So this support to SMEs and working with our partners to support them is also critically important. And then, of course, skills, and we've heard that from the Tumo Center, investing in skills, allowing people and the labor market more broadly to adapt to the different challenges that a wartime economy or an economy in crisis requires. You know, you've also talked about influx of people, other people leaving. There are huge skills challenges here, and sometimes a sort of a very targeted investment in key skills can really make a difference. And then, of course, vital services, infrastructure. If you have huge numbers of people coming in, as Armenia is experiencing now, you need to invest in infrastructure from municipal to transport, etc., in order to be able to accommodate for those additional challenges. So it's about flexibility, it's about adapting your approach, it's about understanding risk and in a way dealing with that. It's about partnerships, finding others that can complement what it is that you're doing. But I think we've seen a nice representation of exactly those challenges across our region.
And let me ask you to make it concrete, if you would, because I'd like to switch now and talk in more depth about solutions and approaches to the problems that you have described. And I'm going to ask Barbara to get us started by talking about what essentially the bank president called for yesterday in her address to the donors, where she mentioned the poly crisis and said that, in exactly your words, we have to put resilience first as we deal deal with and respond to all the different forms that the polycrisis is taking, whether it's war in Ukraine, whether it's the earthquakes in Turkey and Morocco, whether it's pandemics, including COVID. So let me ask you to talk a little bit about that concretely, how you're doing that, and then we'll get a take from all of the panelists. And I will ask everybody to keep their responses fairly short so that we can take some questions from the audience soon.
Okay, so as you also said, Melinda, at the start, it's really important to make sure that when you design a crisis response, you make sure that you have a focus on people and on human capital and human capital resilience right there from the start, that this is not an afterthought, that it's not just about bricks and mortar, but it's always this focus on people. And this is what we do at EBRD. So we really look at how can we work with our clients as employers, as providers of products and services, in order to ensure that there is this protection of livelihoods, of jobs, of access to vital services. So let me give you some concrete examples. In Ukraine, for example, we have just recently launched a veterans charter with the financial institution sector that encourages financial institutions, and over almost 30 have already signed up, to do a number of things. One, to take active measures to reintegrate veterans into the workforce through a range of different areas, and I'm sure we will hear more about exactly what those are, but that is about psychosocial support, it's about adaptation, it's about retraining, ensuring that they can be deployed in the types of jobs that they can do, where they can add the most value. But then also deploying their finance to support veterans to actually either set up new businesses or continue the businesses that they had. And then thirdly, very importantly, working with SMEs and enabling them to also reintegrate veterans into their workforce, because we know in Ukraine over 80% of jobs are actually based with SMEs. So these are very concrete examples of how we deploy our finance combined with technical assistance. There are many more examples. In Armenia, we work with the Tumo Center to equip young people with digital skills, particularly also refugees coming in order to contribute and integrate into the labor market. In Turkey, we supported the private sector to play an active role as part of the emergency response. So this was actually investing in providing very fast capital to companies to scale up what they could do on transportation or vital logistics in order to really quickly be where it was most needed on the site of this devastating earthquake. And then in relation to COVID, of course, these are very longer-term challenges that I know across all of our region we still face, where there are huge disruptions to people's education, employment, particularly also for young people. I would actually like to show what we have done in Georgia, in particular in relation to supporting Georgia on its path of recovery from the COVID crisis. Maybe we can have a quick look.
Sure.
ხსენებათ, რომ საქართველოში არის ექთნის სერიოზული დეფიციტი და განსაკუთრებით მეანი ექთნების ბებია-ქალების სერიოზული დეფიციტია. ექთნის პროფესიული განვითარებისთვის აუცილებელია მუდმივად იღებდეს პროფესიულ განათლებას. პროფესიული განათლების მიღება უმთავრესად ხდება ტრენინგების საშუალებით და ლიტერატურის საშუალებით, რომელიც მინდა ვთქვა, რომ მაინც და მაინც ხელმისაწვდომი არ არის დღეს საქართველოში.
ზოგადად მედიცინის სფეროში და კონკრეტულად და განსაკუთრებით საექთნო სფეროში მნიშვნელოვანია მუდმივად განახლებადი ინფორმაციის მიწოდება სამედიცინო პერსონალისათვის, რადგან მედიცინა ეს არის მუდმივად განახლებადი მეცნიერება და ის დღეს არის სწორი და აღიარებულია, შესაძლებელია ხალხს არ იყოს სწორი და შესაბამისად ეს კვალიფიკაციის ამაღლების ტრენინგები, გაზამზადებები მნიშვნელოვანია, რომ სამედიცინო პერსონალი იყოს მუდმივად უახლესი ინფორმაციით და განათლებით აღჭურვილი.
So a wonderful example there of what EBRD is doing to boost human resilience and shape the future in a very literal sense when we see that very small infant. Let's go from babies and nurses in Georgia back to veterans in Ukraine. And Lyudmila, tell us a little bit about what you are doing concretely at Ukrenergo to deal with some of the issues that you talked about, including mental health issues, stress, trauma, and more.
As a full-scale invasion has started, our primary focus was to ensure the safety of our people. So we quickly relocated our employees to safer locations and also set up remote and hybrid work options. Our international partners helped us a lot to relocate families of our employees abroad, which we're very thankful for. Secondly, we introduced a number of allowances, such as housing allowance, for instance, for those who lost their property due to war, or recently we launched another aid targeted for people who work near the frontline zone. To maintain our productivity, my colleagues developed two-level defense system for our vital high-voltage equipment to protect it from drones and missiles attacks. We also invested with the help of international companies to strengthen our cybersecurity system protection and also upskill our IT team. As a result, our enemy has never managed to cross the perimeter of our cybersecurity protections. Besides, we launched digital transformation of our company, including AI solutions. As per employee health and safety and well-being of our employees, we put a focus on our medical insurance and extended it with critical diseases coverage, because unfortunately we see the growing number of oncology cases among our employees. And we also started internal program aimed to teach our people on how to provide first aid and urgent psychological support to their colleagues and to themselves, which is especially vital in suburb substations. Diversity and inclusion became vital for us, really. So last year we launched a dedicated program for our 36 demobilized people. We call this program Together, and it includes basic support for quicker adaptation to civilian life. It includes educational activities for our line manager and dedicated medical insurance with extended rehabilitation coverage. And right now we are working on broadening this program to bring also psychological support to our demobilized people and also extend it with legal services counseling. To further strengthen the resilience of our workforce, right now we are developing also two programs to do it. But last, what I wanted to say is that majority of this project would not be possible without ongoing support and guidance from EBRD. And I'm very thankful on behalf of all Ukrenergo team for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me go over here to put another question to Mary Lou, if I may. And I know you too have worked with EBRD and other partners. So if you'd include that in your answer to what, in a way, is a riddle. You talked about these young people on the move, their needs, short-term needs, longer-term needs. How do you address all of that at one time?
Yes, so we did a few things. I will be very short and quick. So the first thing was, because we had a center in Stepanogard and 3 boxes in Artsakh, the first thing was to take care of our own staff. Right when they were leaving, we had already planned where we can offer them a house, be able to continue their jobs, and our staff was together with their families, so we were taking care of all the families together with our staff. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing we did was very important. We realized that there is a lot of help in every segment of this population, But one of them, which is very vulnerable, the teenagers, which is our target group, was always left behind. Yes, they need a house. Yes, they have to go to school, but nobody will ask them how they're doing, what they're doing, how they're feeling. And you can imagine, we have all been teenagers. You can take a lot inside, and that trauma can be with you all your life. So we tried to organize a group called TUMO for teenagers, for Artsakh teenagers. The goal was to follow and collect all the data of all the teenagers from 12 to 18. And of course, you can imagine by collecting all this data, we are collecting also data about the families. If the families have the man, woman, who's working, how many are living in the same house, what are the difficulties, are they integrating into the school system or not, are they going to school, are they continuing their education or not. So that we mobilized the team, and we collected almost 70 or 80% of the data now already. The third thing we did is with EBRD to see how we can very quickly organize and be able to offer a program for adults, and hopefully we'll use our boxes and see how we can prepare a program that, for those who are interested, offer them a platform where they can upskill their digital skills. And the last one we did, which is, again, a very vulnerable segment, are the women. So what we did, we have a program which is the TUMO Studios, which is a TUM analog. We prepare kits, very simple kits that we collaborated with the post office. And we are sending these kits to the houses of those women and asking them if they're interested to work, to knit, and send them back. We will pay them, and then we'll deal with how we can sell these products. But the most important is to tell the woman at home who was displaced and is vulnerable and maybe has never worked before, to be able to gain and work and be able to contribute to the daily needs of her family. So that's our fourth program.
Thank you very much. And staying with collaboration, I'll jump over to Hannah now. And yesterday's speech by the EBRD president to the donors specifically highlighted SME-focused cooperation with Bank of Palestine. So tell us a little more, if you would, about how you are working with not only the bank, but also with other partners to make it easier for small businesses to operate in this very challenging environment that you described.
Correct. Thank you. So basically, when you say small and medium enterprises in particular, that means a lot to us because our economy is majority small and medium enterprises, you know. And even with the definition, European definition, or some big Western economy definition, that covers a much wider scope. But I would say more than 90% of our businesses under the classification of small and medium are small and medium businesses. So what can we do and what have we done to help? Early, since the war started, what we did was we did an evaluation of all businesses. We wanted to know, which businesses were out of business, which businesses were damaged, which businesses had significant drop in sales, which businesses are having difficulty in operating. And for our customers, the strategy was, okay, let's see what we can do to help them. And there was a range of solutions to help these businesses. One was moratorium on repayment. So normally, when you have a loan, you would want and when the situation deteriorates, you want faster repayment, not a slower repayment. So we had moratorium, delays in payments. That that was the first thing we did for many businesses, and that helped relieve them from their debt obligations in this difficult time. We had temporary overdrafts, temporary facilities for these businesses. So we said, if businesses are suffering and they want to pay salaries, they want to pay their suppliers, they have some immediate payments they have to make, we offered temporary facilities. We did restructuring for the loans, giving them some breathing space, sometimes longer tenor, longer term. So the approach of the bank was to try to support as much as possible and see how together we and the businesses we bank will come out of this with as little as possible losses. So that's one thing. Our relationship with EBRD, and they've provided a lot of value. We previously had a program of 15 million euro with the EBRD, and part of this program was for women lending, and it was a very successful program. It helped us mobilize more for small, medium enterprises. It helped us more to mobilize for small women businesses. That program was accompanied by a technical assistance component, and that technical assistance provided technical assistance for product development for women, for businesses themselves, and it was really a good program. And we recently signed an agreement of 30 million euro also for small, medium enterprises, which we're hoping that this will kick off soon. And this program, this new program, will build on our strategy to continue to give the support of our existing clients and the new clients. So to summarize what we have done, the first thing is so that we can work in a in a planned way. We continue to do assessment and evaluation of our clients and then come up with solutions.
And that's emerging as a message from a number of you, that in a situation like a crisis, which there's so much uncertainty, information is absolutely vital to understanding that impact on people before you begin to act. Let me ask the Deputy Prime Minister to please conclude this round before I take a few audience questions with a look toward the future, because we have heard indirectly a number of references to preparing for future crises as well as dealing the ones that are in front of us right now. So let me ask you to say how you see the role of cooperation also with partners like EBRD and others to do that and build resilience for the future.
Well, I think exactly cooperation and exactly talking to each other and learning from each other is crucial. I think if we are fully honest, then we'll accept that we don't know almost anything about how really the world of tomorrow will look. We have clarity on the direction, but then again we don't know what exactly where exactly it will lead to in technology, in in the society and so on. So it's important to maintain a certain agility and a certain flexibility. How will tomorrow's world look like, will impact, and we have to be ready today with decisions on the education, on the labor market, on the society as a whole. And the golden rule, I think, here is we have to remain flexible. At the same time, productivity is a principle that has to be ingrained in whatever we do. We have to do it well. So it's as simple as that, and that means that when we're speaking about upskilling, when we're speaking about a flexible labor market, it's really about that. It's about being able to reuse your old skill, to reinvent yourself, and to be prepared for the challenges for the demand of the new economy, let's say.
And let me pose an audience question that's come in online to you, and then if anybody else wants to weigh in, you're welcome to do so. And dear audience in the room, we also want to hear your questions. We do have microphone bearers here in red shirts. But this question, in a way, goes back to the first measure you mentioned in your first answer when you talked about eliminating work permits for a number of different nationalities. The question is this: is it possible to address long-term human capital shortages in the present? Subsidies to foster higher birth rates aren't working, says this questioner. What else can be done? Perhaps this person is inspired by the film with the baby. I don't know.
I think there is really no golden solution. There is no silver bullet. There is not one solution that will solve all of the problems. What we're trying to do, for example, with temporary opening up of labor market, is to address is to satisfy the needs of the economy now in skills and in also really workforce, while investing in longer-term solutions. Because if I only invest in demographic growth, that means we should probably just stand still and wait for a new generation that's in 20 years. We cannot afford that. So what we have to do as policymakers, as experts, as entrepreneurs, is we have to really juggle in between so many constraints: long-term, short-term, up-down, and so on and so on.
Thank you very much. Anybody want to add something crucial to that, briefly?
I wanted to add
two sentences.
Quick things is that there is a lot of lessons we have to learn from all these crises to be better prepared. We were talking about, as much as you can be prepared, you're never prepared to what is going to happen. But still, there are things that could be done.
Yes.
And flexibility. We spoke about flexibility a lot. For example, for the women that we are preparing these packages, the fact that you can send them a package and they can work and you can pay them, it's a huge, big deal. Like, how are they going to pay taxes? We're talking about $5, $10, $15. We're not talking about hundreds of dollars or a salary. There is not even a system that helps us be flexible and work with those women quickly. So we have to raise the issue, go on and on and on, and time is passing. So what should we do?
Thank you. If anyone has an answer, you are welcome to weigh in, but otherwise, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you. Here's one in the second row. Here, this gentleman here, please.
You could.
Thank you very much for the panel and the exceptional information. Going back to His Excellency's discussion, if the infrastructure is actually totally destroyed, you can't send by post because there is no post. So how do you deal with this issue of resilience of human assets in a situation of total destruction of the infrastructure? And this is where the juggling comes in, I guess, but that's a major challenge.
Thank you very much. Let me bundle if we have other questions, because we have very little time left. Anybody else have a question as well? Not a one over here. How about over here? Okay, then let's get some answers on that one. Would you like to speak to that? Certainly, I think Lyudmila might have something to say about
probably
it.
I will start, yes. We have in particularly such situation, especially, for instance, in Bakhmut city. It was 71,000 people living before the full-fledged war, and Russians were trying to destroy it for 1 year. They continue their attacks day and night, but there was still people living there. And our infrastructure workers, blue-collar, they continue repair that infrastructure damage again and again, until in 1 year, Russians destroyed the city totally. There is nothing left. There is no infrastructure. There is no people. We relocated our people to other locations, and right now the situation is very challenging in the Kharkiv region. And in Kharkiv, we have a group of people from Bakhmut. And if we didn't have those people relocated from there, we would not have been able to restore Kharkiv as we're doing daily and nightly right now. So, in fact, it helps us right now because they are very skilled workers and they prefer to stay with Ukraine.
Anyone else like to weigh in on this? Hannah?
So basically, you know, in a situation like this, I was referring to an assessment to be done, at least in our case. And this assessment basically looks at the current situation and trying to understand each situation separately. In some cases, you know, you just have to wait until, you know, things improve or until, you know, the war stops before you do something. In other situations where there's something you can do, then you would have to do it. But in many cases, there's nothing much. In some cases, there's nothing much you can do, but there's always a room to help and support and make a difference for the clients.
Thank you. And Barbara?
Maybe just very quickly, I think what needs to be understood is that you can only reconstruct when you have people there to reconstruct. And I think that the example you gave from Ukraine is a very clear one. So investing in human capital and making sure that people are there and have the capacity to reconstruct, and then once it's reconstructed, to operate whatever infrastructure that is, including energy infrastructure or other, is really vital. So this is really where the focus on reconstruction and human capital has to go hand in hand, because you can't do either or.
And sustaining capacity, which I think all of you have talked about in very different ways. Thank you so much to this panel for a very enlightening and thought-provoking exchange. Let's give them a warm round of applause, please. And thank you very much, dear audience, for your attention and also for your contributions. And I would like to thank the technical team, everybody working behind the scenes in the dark corners of the room, for making our discussion possible. And with that, I wish everyone a good afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you. It's
Thank you
great being on the panel with you.
very much.